I want to just say now go to Mike Mitchell. He always gives us things to think about and starts our day in a good way. I also have to acknowledge the youngest lifelong learner we have participating today, Nolan Brown. He's my grandson. He's just not even 3 weeks old yet, and he's here and listening. And the spirit is making the words go to his heart. And I'm delighted that this is about learning. It's about young people that he is here to listen and share with us. Next slide, please. I just want to say welcome. I'm so excited about today and tomorrow. We've never done this before. So thank you for joining us on this amazing journey. We have tremendous number of speakers, and we had planned to have 150 participants, but as of today, we have signed in, registered 200 for national gathering. So Nyawagoa, thank you so much for coming to participate, to listen, to learn, and most of all, to share, because that's what the First Nations Education Administrators Association does. We share, we network, and that's a traditional way. It's our way to share our gifts with those we care about, those who move forward on the journey. And we have to remind ourselves of that, because we have lost our way because of colonialism. And I think that we're finding our way back, and that's what the stories we're going to be hearing about over the next 2 days are about. So this is just wondrous, and I'm delighted that we can also include our vendors who are part of us and learn what they do. So Nyawe, next slide, please. Oh, our wolf sponsors, MNP and Centronic. We want to say Nyawagoba, we hold you up for being a big sponsor to help make sure that this conference is successful. We just want to acknowledge your contribution in a good way. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. And here we have our national gathering vendors for this particular 2-day national gathering. And you see that they're all there: Concordia, Dadavin, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, Flag House, First Nations Housing Professionals Association, Greenfield Learning, Khajiit, MNP LLP, Queen's University Indigenous Futures, Centronic, and the Jensen Group. Next slide, please. And we're going to be looking at our FNEA corporate memberships have grown. Our membership, we'll talk about in a minute. We've grown, I can't remember, do we have a slide on membership? No, we have now 104 members. And that's amazing, because in, I think it was in April, we had maybe 37. So now we're in October, and we have 104. And look at these corporate sponsors who have stepped up to be part of us. And so we are absolutely delighted. This is for the education of First Nations across the country. And we thank you for your support. It's just wonderful. And we want to hold you all up. And it's the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education, Assembly of First Nations, Athabasca Denisuline Education Authority, First Nations Technical Institute, Lac des Mille Lac Education, Meadow Lake Tribal Council, Mississauga Scugog Island First Nation, NIB Trust Fund, Kitos Now Tribal Council Education Authority, and Skolkwin National Government. I apologize if I'm not saying this right. I do not have a gift of languages, but I will try to say the words as best I can. Forgive me if I'm don't do it justice. So Nyawe, next slide, please. Our national gathering themes, really this was supposed to be an in-person conference, and it didn't work out that way due to our pandemic. So we are delighted to try it virtually, but our themes seem to resonate with the space we're in today: resilience, reconciliation, control, and change. All of these are very important as we move forward move away from colonialism, put it away, get rid of it, and then move towards being who we are in our own nationhood, in our own self-determination. We have to discover what that looks like and what that feels like for ourselves within each of our First Nations. And we know there are over 648 First Nations across the country. And we know that everyone has their own ceremonies, their own dialect of language, their own stories, their own place, their own land that creates those stories, and that creates the connection and interconnectedness with the space and place where we grew and where our nation is from. And so we acknowledge that and know that this journey isn't an easy journey. It's a very difficult when you're chained down into colonialism for so long, hundreds of years. None of us have lived outside of that. Before contact, we can only imagine what it was like. And we have to again imagine in our hearts and in our spirits and in our soul what we want the future to be. And that's why we go to our knowledge keepers, and that's why we go to the language, because pictures are there, glimpses are there, and we have to begin to listen.
I wonder if he'll be going to work earlier or later again.
Next slide, please. The first theme is resilience. And resilience is about focusing on our capacity and inner strength of an individual, family, and community to bounce back and carry on in hard times and in adversity. First Nations, it relates to our identity, our land, our history, our collective dimensions of health, and our sense of autonomy, problem-solving skills, communication skills, social skills, cognitive, integrative skills, and most of all, the capacity to make a difference in the world. We believe it, and it will happen. Next slide, please. And when we talk about reconciliation, this is the time we're in. We have passed legislation, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and we focus on healing, and we focus on health and the wellness of First Nations individuals, families, and communities. And this requires public truth sharing, apology and acknowledging past harms, addressing colonialism and negative impact on education, culture, and languages. And so we have to focus then on revitalizing and integrating First Nations knowledge systems, oral histories, laws, protocols, and connections to the land. And this is about having dialogue about our history and about residential schools. It's about understanding our treaties, our First Nations rights, and First Nations contributions to society. Next slide, please. In the West, we focus on control of First Nations education. It's about capacity building for effective governance and leadership. It's about at the individual level, the family level, and community levels. So this is a focus on strategy, action, and results, and it's about lifelong learning and helping others. And so we have to find role models, we have to share information, and we have to be concerned about the outcomes and the welfare of others with integrity, credibility, and value differences. Next slide, please. So in the North, we have change. This is where our knowledge keepers are. This is about who we are. It's about time. It's about what we believe. It's about how we live. It's about what we value and the economy and how we make a living. And it's about lifelong learning. And it's about the place we live in, the geography. And so we know the one constant in the universe is change. And so as learners, new knowledge and experiences are embraced as we continue to develop our gifts and grow and become. And it's about interconnectedness and building positive relationships with all elements of nature. And it's also other human beings, it's our ancestors, it's the unseen, those who came before us and those who will come after us. The 7 generations, and also the creator. And this is about wisdom of First Nations, knowledge keepers, ceremonies, cultures, and traditions. It's about identity and constant evolution. Next slide, please. So these are the themes of our conference. And these 4 themes resonate throughout the full 2 days. And in day 1 webinar presentations, we cover all themes. We look at resiliency, technology, and constructivism today. We look at building resilience in online literacy learning, tutoring, and the gift of resiliency. And in theme 2, there are 4 webinars: cultural sensitivity, language and culture in education, forest kindergarten, and land-based learning, traditional practices and conflict resolution. Next slide, please. In terms of, next slide, please. Theme 3, control of First Nations education. We have presentations on Indigenous education and leadership in post-pandemic future. We have transforming First Nations education, journey to establish First Nation Education Authority, First Nations education, and navigating regional agreements. These are all very much part of controlling education in our system, taking jurisdiction. Theme 4 is change, and we have a panel for champions of change and honoring resilience this morning. We have a reawakening Cowessess First Nations education presentation, and we have a BC knowledge key for speaking from her perspective. And so next slide, please. And so at the end, we have at the end of each session, we're asking you to evaluate the National Gathering webinar session that you attended. And to do that, my understanding is that it's very short. There are only 11 questions. And there will be on your screen on the left-hand corner, top left, there's a grab screen, and under it, we will have National Gathering evaluation form. So when you see that, you'd go in and click, and before you leave the session, please fill out the evaluation form. It helps us to create better workshops and webinars for you that meet your needs. And that's what we're here to do. So Yahweh, next slide, please. We're finished. I want to say thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day, and let us know how you do. Yahweh.